So hello and welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and we're going to have a webinar today on how to have your podcast to bring you clients and bring you fame and bring you an elevated place in wherever you are now. So we're going to talk about getting your podcast, building your podcast, and having it be in alignment with where it is you're seeking to be. Okay, so this is for you if you're a creative. This is for you if you're a coach or a healer or an entrepreneur. This is not for you if you can't see yourself having a podcast. This is for you if you're just not quite ready to be in the limelight, because what I talk about is really expanding your lightness and being out in front of more people. So if you can't fathom that, this is probably not your webinar. If you would like to have more, I want to say notoriety, but it's like notoriety on our terms. It's like notoriety for those gifts that you have and for that way that you are changing the world being you. So if you're looking for more of that, we're going to talk about notoriety and fame. And we're going to talk about putting your podcast strategically in place to get you where it is you're seeking to be. Okay, so the two pieces of that. Now there's a third part. So the third piece is how to clear the space to have the other two pieces. So we're going to clear the space, and then we're going to talk about shifting into having your podcast be alignment for what you're seeking. And then we're going to talk a little bit at the end about fame and how I managed to keep landing in so much kind of wonderful connectivity with other people. And the first thing I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to say like, okay, well, why should you listen to me? And my name's Erica Glessing. And I started writing when I think I was 3 or 4. I've had over 20 or 25, I don't know the number, a lot of #1 best-selling books. I bring a lot of books to press, and I love working with authors. So in 2016, I asked my publishing company, I said, you know what? Oh, this is one of my favorites. I didn't publish this, but I just love this. It's a new dragon card. It's so awesome. It's by Susan Smith James, who wrote the book Dancing Dragon Magic. So I love it. Anyhow, so I was able to take that platform of being a publisher, and I brought authors to my podcast, which launched in January 2017. Okay. And it launched to 10,000 listens in the very first month of January. It launched with a daily 8-minute structure, which gave all these light workers an opportunity to say what they wanted to do and what they wanted to be. And I just hit 300,000 listens. And right now I think I don't know if I'm number 4 or number 5 on iTunes. I'm going to go share screen and look real time. Let's see. I want to make sure that's share screening. There we go. Share screen. And so this is real time. So I don't know where I am. I might have fallen. Let's look. Let's see where I am on iTunes right now, this instant while I'm doing the podcast, right? So there's my show. Yeah, it's so pretty. I love my logo. We're going to look in self-help. And then we're going to go down and look at top podcasts. And it looks to me like I am presently number 5. So whenever you're ranking on iTunes, I recommend doing a quick print screen. Because the shows kind of tend to circulate throughout the week. When the next show pops into like it's a Monday, then that show might move up. And then like, let's say there's a Tuesday show, now that show might move up. So iTunes is really fun. Well, that's kind of my credentials, lifetime author, publisher, 3rd generation. And now I've been teaching podcasts since April 2017. So it's not a huge amount of time, but I grew up on a television set. So my mom was a television producer, and I grew up in that environment of media. And I grew up with guests, and she would, I grew up in an environment where my mom would invite guests, and she had a host. She was the executive producer of her own television show with KQED, PBS in San Francisco. So I just grew up in this environment of always having sort of media and feeling at ease with famous people. And I always grew up in that environment. So that's just enough to kind of let you know that I'm not just saying like crazy stuff that I haven't actually practiced. And you're standing up, by listening to this webinar, you're standing on my shoulders, you're learning from my mistakes, and you get to move up higher. Okay. Also, at the end of this webinar, I know I keep the offer to the end. I won't be bugging you with an offer until the end. I am going to show you how you could work with me to build your podcast and experience more of the business, the clients, the fame, the fun things that come with having a successful podcast, right? And then I'm going to show you real quick again on share screen. Again, this is all real time, so I'm trying to be kind of like just open book. These are some of the podcasts that I've helped create. So Pratima Nagaraj and I worked together on her first book, which was Vulnerability as the Road to Change. When it came time for Pratima to create a podcast last fall, she reached out and we worked together and she built it. She did all the work, by the way. I was just her kind of like caveat. I was her conduit to making sure that it started out beautiful. Gems with Curry Glossell is now over 9,000 listens. I'm so proud of Gems with Curry Glossell. It's such a beautiful program. And then the Lighten Up podcast with Lauren Polly. Oh my gosh. This one is just going wild. It is having the most amazing beginning. Lauren takes on great topics. And I want to show you something that Lauren does kind of just in here. Get your free meditation on how to quiet your mind. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine having a quiet mind. Lauren and I were laughing about that. So she has a gift for teaching and she is taking it into her podcast. She writes some very nice things and you can always sign up for something every single time. A free meditation, softening from the outside in. Ooh. Why you can't relax and how you can. That's a good one. Look at these download numbers, 100, 104. Let's look, 74. So what happens is with podcasts is that basically what's happened is that Netflix has taught us and our culture today has taught us that we can binge listen when we like something. So the podcast has taken off in popularity because people can go in and they can listen to something they love and then they can get more and then they can control how many minutes they spend. So they can actually, for instance, be on a trip and they're going to be 2.5 hours in the car. They can go pick their 3 favorite podcasts and they know how long they are because the host has said 30 minutes or 8 minutes or however many minutes. And then they can go download. Let's say it was Lauren Polly's podcast I wanted to take with me on a trip. So what I would do is I'd go and I'd say, let's say I'm going to be in the car for 2 hours. It's about 15 minutes. So I'm going to need 8 shows and I'm going to go download 8 shows. Then I'm going to drive and get very high. She's such a high vibration. I'm going to get really high if I did that 2 hours with Lauren. So that's how people listen to podcasts. It was amazing to me, my show. When I'd have 3 weeks where I lost my voice and I couldn't really perform, I would play a couple replays and the show would keep incrementally growing because people will keep listening to back shows. And so it's just always exponentially and growing. Very interesting. So the first thing I'm going to jump into right now on this webinar, I'm super glad you're here. I'm going to jump into letting go of the conclusions that it can't succeed. So you may have heard someone else say they tried it, it didn't work. You're going to have to change the reality. So I had this conversation with someone yesterday. She was trying to sell her house. It wasn't selling. And she had in her head, it's hard to sell. It's a buyer's market. This is going to be difficult. It's not. I was like, well, how many pictures do you have of the house? It was like 4. I was like, well, you need 30. It was like everything she was doing was all structured in this. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard. And then the actions followed that. And so then it was like not selling. And then that bought into, well, it's a tough market and it can't sell and blah, blah, blah. So what happens is if we believe that our podcast can take us where it is we're seeking to go, if we believe in it and we put things into motion in that manner, it's going to shift the energy of it and we're going to start having successes. So the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change and clear out the clutter. And you know, one of the things I talk about is if your house is full of furniture and you want to bring in all new furniture, you can't do it until you get rid of that stuff. So what are you holding on to that isn't working about you, that's not working, that doesn't believe things can work? And maybe you're not doing this at all, in which case you can basically kind of skip through this whole part of clearing the clutter. But what I'd like to ask you to do and invite you into is a space where you let go of the things that didn't work and you just say, okay, great. Some things in the past haven't worked. could I create a podcast that does work? Now, if you get a no, then probably don't do it. But if you get that you could, and it would be enjoyable, maybe even, and that you could tie it into your business, you could bring yourself clients, or you could help more people with your gifts, then let go of all that stuff that says you can't do it. Because whatever that is, that's like old, ugly furniture that is blocking you from having such a fun experience with your podcast, right? So go ahead and let that go. Cool. That's number one. So number two is setting your strategic alignment. And this one is one that I really work closely with on my podcast Done For You clients. And this is really one of the challenging pieces that if you're able to master this, then your show will really take off and it will do well, because a show that's successful smells and feels successful. So it has a yummy thing. And when it's making you money, when it's doing well, and when it's doing well for others, it's different than if it isn't. So what we want to do is sort of cook it. We want to put all the secret sauce ingredients in so that you can have a podcast that does work for you in your business. And what I like, and if you're listening to this and you don't really want a business, you just want to say you just want to read from your book. So you have a really good book. One of my authors has a really good book. Say she just wanted a podcast where she just read from her book. That'd be okay too. But that could help her sell her books, which actually might help something too. So I look at what is the outcome that you'd like to have from your podcast. So if you do have a pencil and paper, just sit and write down a few things you'd like to have from your podcast, whether you already have one or whether you're building one. So my program, The Erica Glessing Show, seeks to help authors and lightworkers and entrepreneurs learn how to be better lightworkers and entrepreneurs, and also give fame to the people who come on the show. So I really wanted to bring light to the people who came on my show. And that was just something where the podcast wanted to come in and put light on really cool people. And that's something that's part of my own, I don't know, maybe it's my birth mission. It has something to do with my soul purpose because I love doing it so much. I've been loving helping people shine since all the way back to high school. My goal in high school was to manage a band and help them get a really good, cool band and help them succeed. That was really fun. In college, I worked for the newspaper, and I wrote about artists, and I especially wrote about artists who were kind of lower profile at my university, and I would put them on the front page so they'd get higher profile at my university. And it's just something I've done my whole life, so it's very natural for me. So is your podcast something that ties you to where it is you want to go? Is it on that ladder, right? Is it taking you to the stars? Is it shifting you up? Is it up-leveling you? So one of the ways to structure it is just to have guests on it that are people you'd like to work with. That's one good way. You can also have guests on it that your clients would like to learn from. So you do top-tier guests. And then the way where you're just having your own conversations and you're not interviewing anyone else, this is an interesting choice. It actually can work. It's a little bit more challenging to grow exponentially when you don't have guests, because guests are the ones that bring new people to you all the time. And when people search for your guests, then they bring new people to you. So it's a little easier to grow when you have guests. So just sit there with your strategic alignment when you're building your podcast and name it in tune with that, and just kind of be with that. That's kind of really where I come from with that. And again, this is part of my Podcast Done For You program. As far as the technical parts of the podcast, in my Podcast Done For You program, I basically set it up for you, teach you how to do it, and then hand it off to you. And I get the iTunes approval for you. But none of this stuff is rocket science. You could Google any of it. You can find out any of it on your own. It's just, would you like to have someone who's done it successfully help you, or would you like to find it on your own? And either way, at the end of the day, 5 years from now, if you have a successful podcast, you'll just look back and you'll know the right choices you made for you. So there's no really right or wrong. I learned from John Lee Dumas, who did Entrepreneur on Fire. So I attended a bunch of his workshops, and I took as many classes as I could, and I learned from his equipment decisions, recommendations. I did a lot of help with John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire when I was building mine, because his show was doing so well. And I thought, why make everything brand new? Why not just model myself after someone who is succeeding, right? Exactly. So the third piece, so that's really it on strategic alignment. It's just really looking at where you want to be, where you want to go, and then structuring your show to help be part of that. And then keep assessing, is this taking me where I want to go? Is it helping me? And if it is, keep it up. And if it isn't, change it. Give you permission. All right, cool. So the third one is we're going to talk a little bit about fame and how that kind of plays in. And I'm going to show you which podcast would I like to show you. Let's see. Let's do Katrina's. So, okay, so we're going to go to the Elemental Lifestyle Podcast. This is with Katrina Elkins. Oh my goodness, she's up to 17 episodes. That's so crazy. We're going to view that. We're just going to go Elemental Katrina Elkins. I want to show you what shows up. So first you get images of her show. You get her logo. And you get some of her episodes, which she has nice things. You get iTunes, Player FM, Podtail FM. I put her on my show to announce it. You get Top Podcast. She has it on her home. She has it on Podbay FM. All of this was within the last few weeks, guys. This is a brand new show, Castbox. There we go. That looks kind of interesting, Castbox. So what we're doing with this is we're harnessing the power of iTunes and its whole network of distribution centers to put you in omnipresence globally. So I call it global omnipresence. And it's also here's the fun thing. I don't know if you've ever had a business and then changed it, and then when you Google your name, you get all this stuff that you used to do. If you do a lot of podcast episodes, Google will start, if you put your name in it, Google will start showing those as the top things for your name. And that way you kind of can flesh out any of the old stuff that you did that still shows up on Google, and you can replace it with all the new things that you're working on right now that are focused and strategic for you. So for fame, I just really look at how can we harness the power of iTunes so that we're driving. So it's like the horses, but we're driving. And that's what I look at with the fame, is it's fame on your terms. Because when you're looking at podcasts, it's yours. It's no one else's. So the last thing I'm going to show you right now is the Podcast Done For You program. And I'm super thrilled about this. I'm up to, I think I'm up to maybe, I'll have to count, but I think I'm up to about 12 people that I've built their shows with them. And 12 shows is pretty good. I'm really excited about 12 shows. I was number 1 at one point. So I was number 2 yesterday. Today I'm number 5. Your podcast is brand authority, creation on steroids. It's harnessing iTunes. I feel so strongly about this. I really like to get, you can see Katrina right here is number 8. I like to get I like to really ramp it up. My deal and deliver is I'll give you 4 one-on-one sessions. In the back end, I'll be building your show. I'll get you the iTunes approval. And then I'll promote 12 shows to my social media reach. And here's a brand new one. I'm so excited about this one. This is Dr. Kim Duramo with Mind Body TV. And one of the exciting things about Dr. Kim is she's always making Facebook Lives. So we took her Facebook Lives and we actually made audio recordings from them. We just derived them. And then we built her podcast that way. And so she's not doing new work. It's just being created from work she's already done. And we can see, I'll show you what that looks like here. Isn't that beautiful? So she's just had 4 episodes. And she's already at 180 downloads, which is so cool. And again, we see 38, 36, 32, 12. So it keeps growing. It's growing incrementally, which I just love. And this show is just a few weeks old. So this just started in June. And it already looks so real, doesn't it? It's so beautiful. We can also tag and categorize it. And she can offer free gifts. I love that. So To sign up with me, what you're going to do is you're going to go on my calendar, which is Meet Me. I'll put the link down below to get on my calendar, and then we'll look at is this strategic for you? And I'd love to have you work with me on your podcast. And we can look at, I have 2 levels. So I have a level that's about, starts you off in at 6 to 8 weeks, and then you kind of fly. And then the other one is about 16 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks, because it takes about 4 weeks to set up, and then we do 12 shows. And that one is a little bit more robust, and it's a little bit more high end. And so far, I'm just thrilled with the opportunity of helping people in this manner. It's ended up being such a light aspect of my life. And so if you like that light, that energy, that enthusiasm, and that much fame, then sign up. You can also just always email me. My email is happypublishing@gmail.com. So thanks so much for listening, guys. I had a great time today.